the back pocket, though, that's where the difference can be made, right? Like, when Destiny is up, Tarzan can play aggressive because he knows he's always going to have that follow-up from the Twisted Fate. So it can change the dynamic of the matchup post-6 a little bit, but we'll have to see if they get that opportunity, as already Orianna taken off the board, Rakan taken away, Nautilus taken away as well. So I'm curious if we actually see like something like a Braum come through from Lumao. Maybe they just go, like, we already have our engage tool from the Twisted Fate. We don't really need any more. And if we can just peel and keep ourselves, like, at arm's length away from BLG, that could honestly be the play here.
I mean, let's be honest. Lumao's just going to lock Bard without any logic applied. That's how this is going to go down. We'll have to wait and see where they're going to go. But first, we have to see BLG locking in a mid laner. It's going to be the Rise by the looks of things. Perfectly reasonable matchup into that Twisted Fate, but also you can match the roams. That's the key thing for Fofo.
This is a really strong matchup for Fofo. Like, it's not even the fact that you can match the roams. You just get to push in and make the roam happen first. Like, you're in such a powerful position. That's why I said you need to ban the Orianna and the Rise here, but because they banned that Gwen, which I'm kind of surprised at, because honestly, like, you could have just picked the Gwen here for Ala if you wanted to, but it looks like they were eyeing up trying to go for that Camille, and instead of going towards the Braum, Lumao is just going to go for the same kind of peel opportunity here with the Alistair, taking that one in towards the bottom lane.
Yeah, I mean, the Alistair is something that Lumao's always been pretty decent on. The Camille was locked in for Ala, though, and immediately, the second I saw the Camille hovered, my brain went, we're in a game with Breathe, Fiora is available, he's against the Camille. These are the 3 checkboxes that needed to be ticked, the Fiora being hovered. If you don't know, this is a Breathe special. This is a signature pick for Breathe. He's been playing this, I'm pretty sure, since the day he was born. He's gonna lock it in. He's got the counter pick. Breathe is set up for domination in the top side.
Especially when you've got that presence in the mid lane for Fofo, right? And we called it out at the start of the day. Fofo needs to start moving. Fofo hasn't been able to be as dominant as he is in the mid lane without the resources that he's gifted in seasons previous. So now we need to see him starting to play for the team. And you're on a rise. Good push against this Twisted Fate. You can make the moves happen first. And when Breathe is on this Fiora, setting up for these top lane ganks with Weiwei shouldn't be an issue, especially against Ala in the early stages. I honestly, in this matchup, I think Ala, we sometimes see, you know, Camille's taking Ignite and that kind of stuff. I really think you need that flash to just avoid the pressure that's going to be coming through in these early stages.
See how it's all going to work out. I'm excited for that top lane matchup. I'm excited for this Doing B Twisted Fate as well, because I want to point out a statistic for you, because I know a lot of people, they'll know Doing B for Twisted Fate just because the last year or two. It's actually not that high up in terms of total amount of games played for Doing B. Like, it's pretty low down the list for him. He's only played it 15 times. However, he does have a 75% win rate on that Twisted Fate. When Doing B has Twisted Fate, he takes names. He's the perfect pick for the style of play that he brings to the board. But Fofo has a good matchup. And Fofo is the guy that we came in today saying, we need to see this mid laner step up for BLG. This is the guy that's felt like somewhat of the weak link for BLG so far. We need to see him step up. He's got a good matchup. He's in a match that's so crucial. Now is Fofo's moment to step into the limelight.
Especially when you look at the composition that LNG have drafted, right? They're going straight towards this 1-3-1. If you're not able to match that, or you start to fall behind, that 1-3-1 can take over. That is a gorgeous setup.
Cool.
Sorry.
It's so cool.
But the thing is, LNG, at the start of the season, myself and a lot of the other analysts were really critical of LNG on how they operate in 1-3-1. Like, they'd oftentimes show in 3 lanes. They'd make it super easy for oppositions to counteract it, or even pick them off when they're overextended, because they could literally just see where everyone on LNG was. This time, though, or at least in the last couple of series, LNG have slowly but steadily been getting better at operating here on these 1-3-1 style compositions. So I'm super interested to see how well they do in these side lanes, especially against BLG, who, as you can see, have a pretty similar composition with both Fofo and Breathe wanting to play out through those side lanes.
Yeah, does feel like we could have a lot of side lane play across the course of this game, but looking towards the junglers, both starting on that bottom side. And one thing I do want to mention quickly is when we look at the top lane summoner spells in this kind of matchup, either of those top laners could have gone for the Ignite, both opting into the teleport, feeling like this is going to be the kind of laning phase where you need to have the teleport. You cannot afford to be caught with your pants down, not have a teleport, and end up losing massive amounts of CS for it.
Yeah, and although this matchup is slightly Fiora favored, it is still relatively a skill matchup, right? So you still got to make sure that, but you still got to make sure that like you are getting these early leads, because if Ala does end up getting to a point where he just is able to take over there and he's got just more items, he's actually going to be in an okay spot. It's more Breathe having to try and play around the engage from Ala, but already you can see with both junglers pathing up towards this top side, Wei should be there to actually help out Breathe as he gets this initial shot.
Tarzan going to be around as well, so if anything does happen where we get a big shove or we get a bit of a dive going on the top side, the other jungler should be able to respond at very least. But for the side of Wei, it's actually pretty positive so far, because he's cleared all 3 camps on his bottom side as he makes his way up, whereas Tarzan skipped his Krug, so will be an ever so slight farm advantage for Wei, but should mean Tarzan can get onto the map quicker if he wants to try and make a play.
I think for Tarzan, though, it's going to be a case of like trying to impact this mid lane matchup. I'm saying that right as Crisp is roaming up to see if he can try and help out Fofo, but I think if you can set Fofo behind, give Doomby a bit of an easier time, that's the best way for you to then win out the 3v3 time.
Oh, Tarzan turns up too late for the crab, and then Wei immediately just jumps on him. He's like, come here, buddy. I want a little bit of a scrap with you. And now Doomby's moved in to try and help, but Crisp is already here. And LNG, we said they were going to be proactive, but it's BLG setting the pace for game number 1 in the series. A second kill just shy of going down as Lumar flashes out to safety.
Great roam from Crisp. Nobody calling it. Well, at least they called it from the bot lane, Lumel moving up, but they didn't realize how close he was. And disrespect from Tarzan. Tried to see if he could get the cheeky smite and end up giving over a kill to BLG.
Beautifully done. And we said the 2 players for FBX will be setting the pace of this game, while Crisp, he reckons he's the better Phoenix as he moves up super early to make the point.
Yeah, and you can see here, right, Tarzan knows he cannot trade against Wei, and Doomby moves in to try and help out his own teammate, but Crisp there in the wings flashes over the wall to get the setup, and Doomby ends up falling very close to Wei going down as well, and also Luma on the back of it, but it's BLG with the great roam, and now the experience difference on the support as well. Level 3 for Crisp, Luma still level 2, means that you can still have Crisp roam around the map and have those impacts still happen.
Beautifully done by Crisp to set the play up very nicely played. And it does mean now Doomby going to be at a disadvantage in this mid lane. We already mentioned Fofo having an advantage in terms of the matchup. Well, now he's very likely to be the first one to hit level 6 as well. And that's crucial for both of these champions. But if there's a XP deficit, then that big level 6 spike becomes even more noticeable.
And it's even the items that Doomby had to pick up, right? Like, he would have loved to go back in an Ionian Boots of Lucidity, start to play off with the fact that he's also run into the spellbook, right? Like, that combo is super nice for you to try and play with, but he's not able to do so. Had to go back and get a crystal, didn't have enough for the full boot upgrade. And whereas you're looking across a Fofo, right? Tier picked up for him the boots as well. He's going to be able to spam abilities on these waves, clear out these before Doomby can really deal with it, and then start to look for the roam. So with this wave just crashing in mid, I believe Fofo should hit 6 off of this wave in the mid lane, whereas Doomby, because he lost that initial one, won't be able to. So keep your eyes on Fofo, because it looks like LNG and Chris both trying to enable this mid lane matchup.
Yeah, Lumau and Chris both moving over the way top to the side as well. I don't think the scan saw Crisp, but let's be honest, both these supports are relatively experienced. They're gonna know the other one is there as well. If they're not in the bottom lane, where else could they possibly be?
And look, Doomby well aware that Crisp has helped him out in days past, so probably knows that the same thing's happened. Ala doubling backwards, trying to see if he can bait him Breathe.
Oh, play up towards the top side here, Breathe with a good riposte, but I don't think he can win 1v3. The whole gang from LNG converges on the top lane, and it doesn't matter about the XP lead that Fofo had. Fofo sits in the mid lane. It's doing B to make the play.
And here's the difference between Fofo and Doom. Doomby perfectly happy to lose an entire wave to that turret, maybe a little bit more, if he can make that play happen, if he can get the lead for Allah. Fofo not willing to do that, and means that in that situation, it's actually the roam first from Doomby, despite it not being the optimal time for him if he was looking at a 1v1 advantage, but Doomby always cognizant of the team advantage.
It's worked out for him, and crucially, in that top lane as well, where we can see that the CS was starting to go the way of Breathe a little bit. That assist will certainly help Allah out. Flash not used for Breathe just yet, so it's not like there's a huge advantage for the next few minutes off the back of this one. That said, Dragon is on the map, Dag there. Herald is coming up in 40 seconds. It's time to talk about neutrals. Who are we expecting to be put the front forward? Because again, I was expecting it to be LNG from the start, but BLG, they made a play mid. Now we've had LNG making a play. Whose turn is it now?
So I think on top side of the map, LNG should be an advantage, right? Like, Breathe beats Camille in the 1v1, but in a team environment, Camille just has more stuff in her kit, right? Like the CC, the ultimate as well to lock people down and set up really nicely alongside Doomby. When you look across at BLG though, they should have control over the spot side. You've got full push coming through from Doggo, is why he sits at about a 10 CS lead. And honestly, it looks like they might just move across the Dragon right now as you do have Weiwei and Fofo in the vicinity.
Herald spawning though, as well, as you can see in the little picture. Right now, Light is still in that bottom lane. You can see Doggo moving over alongside Chris. Doomby just going to be pushed underneath the tower here, just trying to clear the minions ASAP. Not sure if Doggo was spotted there. I have to assume that he was. And that should mean that LNG will not contest this one. This should just be the Herald taken by BLG, no contest. The question is, what else do they get off the back of this? Because, again, that's a long way for Doggo to go if there's no fight.
They honestly might get both objectives here, though. Tarzan is up on this top half of the map doing his Krug, so... Sorry, not his Krugs, his Gromp, so Weiwei can just take this and move back down to the bottom side. They can still see Doggo in lane, so they know that he hasn't actually moved across to the Dragon, and you still have Fofo with full push mid, so this could be a double objective take for BLG if they're able to do it.
Yeah, Light still sticking around in that bottom lane, and now finally getting onto the turret, but this isn't... You know, we usually see Aphelios stay bot during the Herald so that he can take a bunch of plates. The lane was not in a good spot for Light to be able to do that. Tarzan, though, as I hold that thought, is going to move up to the top side. Breathe is the target. The Hextech ultimatum keeps him still. One more hit would do the trick, but they can't find it. Breathe just gets a flash out to safety. I can't believe he lived through that one.
Oh, the cavalry's here, though. Here comes the reinforcements.
Weiwei moving up, Fofo teleports into the lane as well. Doomby just going to conclude his destiny back to that mid lane. And finally, he gets an opportunity to push instead.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the ult there was from Fofo. Everyone had already backed away. Didn't really need to overcommit with that. But now Doomby going to try and make a play for himself. Crisp is slightly out of position, but looks like Lumao doesn't want to try and commit towards that, as they will get the push in. We're just going to hop into a replay here, though, and yeah, it's a nice setup, right? Allah does bait out the repulse coming through from Breed, but Tarzan is here to follow up alongside the ult. But yeah, I think it was just this. Yeah, just one auto, just not quite going through at the end.
I'm pretty sure Tarzan tried to Q during the Hextech ultimatum, but one of the minions was just like slightly to the side, and it does that funky hitbox thing. Unfortunate for the side of LNG, but regardless, very, very important for Breed. Didn't go down. This time his flash is burned. And you're absolutely right, Dagda. I asked you where you thought people were going to be focused on this game. It was all about the top lane. Now Weiwei finally decides it's time for a change of pace. Moves towards this bottom side and will start the Dragon off.
And that's what we said, right? If Tarzan's going to commit to both the Gromp and that lane, top lane, well then it's easy for BLG to use the fact that they still have Bush for Doggo and Chris on the bot side to set it up. And it's why I'm still kind of surprised to see so many of these Aphelios first picks, right? Like, Jinx has so much control in that lane. She allows you to, like, push in. You can look towards Rift Heralds with the move advantage. You can look towards early Dragons with the push advantage as well. And even when you're in a composition like the mid matchup where Ryze can push in against Twisted Fate, it just makes that job even easier. So, I don't know. I'm not the biggest fan of these Aphelios picks first. I feel like Jinx just offers more in so many situations.
Yeah, I mean, I think the logic on the Aphelios, right, is that early presence in lane. But if you're playing topside anyway, what do you really get out of the early presence in the laning phase if you're not going to play around it? So I'm on board with you, Dagda, but clearly a lot of the teams much preferring Sibelius over the Jinx. But either way, I mean, look, hey, Dagda, only one of them has been featured in the hit TV show Arcane Netflix. And I won't
and that's
give
not
any
the one that's
spoilers.
getting picked.
I won't give any spoilers on which one it is. I'll let the audience decide. But with that said, and we're about even in gold right now. It's been a, it's kind of been a weird game, right? Where it has been very slow paced, but there's been like the idea of action a lot. We've had a lot of like threats of action from both teams, but feels like a lot of respect on either side on what the other team can potentially do. As Breathe and Ale sparring it out a little bit. Weiwei is up on this top side right now. Hextech ultimatum comes out from Ale. Tarzan's here too. Both mid laners moving over. It's a full-on scrap in the top side, and LNG are winning it out. Weiwei though with the Gordra can keep himself alive. Fofo's here now with the rise damage. A rocket across the map from Doggo, and BLG flip everything around. Breathe chasing down for kills, trying to survive. Fofo low on HP, but Ale can't quite finish it off. He's getting underneath the tower. Herald drops in the middle of the skirmish somehow as Ale, last man standing for LNG, slowly but surely getting chased down, burning into the tri-brush, and I think Breathe should be able to finish this one off eventually. I'll be totally honest, Doug, that my screen is completely frozen.
The same.
I thought
I'm
it was
the
happening,
same.
but it was chaos, and I loved it.
Breathe got him! He died underneath the tower, and it's going to be the Rift Tower coming in to smack it down. Honestly, this has been like the perfect timing for BLG, because this was kind of like a do or die for the Rift Tower. That Rift Tower was just about to time out, which is why we got it placed down halfway through. And even then as well, the fact that you're able to turn this one around barely as we start to go in towards the replay was just nuts. Like, Ale tries to set it up for the kill on towards Breathe, and they just nearly able to get the kill onto Weiwei, but that Gore Drinker, as he called out, so vital for Weiwei, as he just gets away with a sliver of HP. And at that stage, like, the damage percent coming through from Fofo versus Doomby is going to be so high, including the rocket coming up from Doggo to help finish it off. It's just so much more damage on BLG's side.
Yeah, really nicely done by BLG. The rocket, as you're saying, crucial in the equation to make this happen. I will say I'm struggling in terms of the commentary at this point, Dagda, but I'm excited that BLG are being proactive. I'm excited that they are, well, I suppose that wasn't necessarily proactive, but they read the play, right? And that's the thing about BLG, is they are a very intelligent team. They will figure out what the opponent wants to do and try and counteract that. They'll play slow at all costs, and if your opponent is fast, well, they'll do what's required to match that and stop the pace speeding up.
And the big thing now is that you've gotten those kills going back up for 3, right? We saw the early pressure going up there, but you've got the Divine Sunder that's now come through for them. And that's going to make it a little bit easier in this top half of the map. Weiwei as well, making his way back up here. I don't know if he's going to be able to get anything, because again,
because I can't see anything.
Yeah, there we go. His screen is frozen much. I don't know what to do.
It is what it is. We'll try our best, guys. Do apologize about any tech issues you guys at home might be dealing with as well. But you know, it is what it is. It's one of those things. But yeah, so far so good for BLG. I have to assume, unless some craziness happened since my screen froze. It's a 2,000 gold lead. Herald started.
Herald has started. It's been, I thought it might have been traded for Dragon, at least with the potential for BLG to, for LNG to try and set up some vision control there. But Doggo and Crisp are actually matching it, as Ale nearly caught out here.
Yeah, 1 HP. I'm assuming Breathe got that auto in, and he's finished the kill. Nicely done. That was one of the more exciting slideshows I've ever witnessed. And I'm telling you, some of the sales guys at ESL, when I used to work there, they made some damn good slideshows. So that's saying a lot.
And it means now that Breathe is kind of having a 4-point presentation on why counterpick was going to be so important for BLG. Breathe now in the top side should have a Frost.
Everfrost coming in from Doom B here. Breathe, exhausted. Good flash away from the Sonic Wave. dashes on out. LNG with a failed attempt towards the top side. That does mean Fofo gets to crash yet another wave in the mid lane. But actually, it was good timing from Doom because the wave only just arriving in the mid lane. Weiwei gets the Drake at the same time. Very nicely done here.
That's twice. Yeah. Both objectives on opposite sides of the map have gone to BLG. Like, Weiwei has been so good at understanding, hey, look, if LNG are committee members here, we can actually make the play. And it's been a bit of a mistake from LNG, right? Like, you're not getting Ally ahead. Well, as I say, they might get Doggo.
Yeah, Doggo, this is not a 1v1 that he's going to be able to win. The TP comes in for Breathe, but it's too late. The AD carry is down. Ala will go down for his trouble, and it's still nice for Breathe to get that kill. Unfortunate for Doggo that he had to die for the cause for Solar Flare. Down in the mid lane, doing B in trouble, and it's going to be Chris following him halfway across the map here. Herald gets another charge on in. Damage onto Lumao, but he's damn tanky at this point as Weiwei jumps on into the fray. Tower will survive for the time being. In the meantime, LNG are pushing up at the top side. That's 2 towers they've taken.
Yeah, and Rift Tower be damned. They just did it with manpower. Breathe does get the play onto the bottom lane, though, so that tower going down. I think that mid lane turret is still up and standing. No, will just fall now. So you trade 2 for 2 on the top and mid, but you do have that advantage for Breed in the bot side. So still BLG trading up, and that's why you're looking at about a 3,000 gold lead for them. The Dragon taken in the meantime as well, so 3.5 minutes until that Dragon's up, and with the control that BLG have the map, it feels like it should be theirs. Ali, nice job to pick up Doggo here. Doggo just a little bit overextended, but it just gives time for Breed to TP in and finish it off. So it means that Breathe, with him not being on that top side, at least LNG can get the 2 turrets, but still not ideal.
Yeah, not ideal for the side of LNG. At least they get something, but that gold gap is starting to build. 2,500 in favor of BLG with a 1 tower advantage as well. Crucially, the side lane towers still being up. The fact that 2 of those towers from BLG are down in that mid lane is actually fantastic for them. They've got a Fiora. Fiora wants towers to exist in the side lane, because that's exactly what she's good at dealing with. So, actually, Rocket used the mid lane to stop a recall not too long ago, and now fighting the jungle as well. There's one for Doggo, who's just free firing during all of this. Light could be in trouble as Weiwei jumps in, but Doomby joins the fray once more. Fofo in on the action as well, but Doggo is still going strong. Doggo's still untouched, and Doggo wants some kills for himself. There's one for Fofo as Doomby falls, and Ala jumps into the back line. Oh, what a play from LNG! Well, it looked really cool. They got Doggo, but it was just suicide.
It looked good for a moment, but LNG unfortunately can't find the plays that they want. BLG, they're winning out of the skirmishes. They're winning out of the side lane pressure. And unfortunately, Munch, you said that you wanted towers for Breathe in those side lanes. Well, Breathe is kind of chopping them down like trees and making sure that he's got a ton of money in his back pocket. Those towers are not lasting long enough.
You would think with a name like Breathe, you'd want to save the trees, really, but no. He's just chopping them down left, right, and centre. Lumao has to be the one to face check, and that's how it all starts.
I mean, did he have to face check? Like, did he really need to be there? Honestly, I think he could have just left it. You've got to just push out your waves, try and play through that. You have vision in your jungle, but instead LNG try to contest it. It means that Doomby has to come through here, and BLG gets so much. It is a nice attempt to say, like Ala getting a good flash with the CC to set up for the kill onto Doggo, but you still give both your lives there for the cost of.
The thing is, I think they maybe could have both got out. I'm not sure if Ala could have got out. Tarzan definitely could have. But I don't know. Whether or not trading, I guess they got. I think Doggo had a shutdown at this point. So I think it's still a net negative trade, but maybe they deemed that worth it. I'm not so sure. Either way, I think they were banking on Tarzan getting a gold ring. I think that was the crux of the play, but he gets knocked up straight away by Weiwei as he goes in, so he essentially just gets shredded like paper. Bit of a disaster side of LNG. And that gold gap we talked about before, now all the way up to almost 5,000 in favor of BLG. I guess it's close to 4,000, but, you know, maths is hard. So as we move on in this game, Drake up in 30 seconds time. So point.
They're gonna realm warp. I think. Oh no, okay. I thought Weiwei was gonna realm warp in with Fofo into the top lane, but Fofo's just gonna collect this wave. As you say, Dragon at 15, vision control completely for BLG. There's just nothing that LNG can do, right? Like they're trying to get some control at top, maybe move Ala in to get a pick before, but if not BLG, they've just got such a strong fight right now with 2 items on towards Jinx and the Fimble Winter completed.
I think back to the last fight as well. Doggo's positioning is obviously fantastic anyway, but who on the side of LNG can get onto Doggo? You need to see Ala diving in. You need to see B maybe getting to the back line as well, just to try and throw out a gold card. But it's difficult to do that when you've got a Leona, when you've got a Xin and then a Rise as well. There's just so much front-loaded damage and protection for Doggo in these fights that it was difficult for LNG to actually get on top of him. And if they can't, just know that they lose on the damage numbers alone.
And even if you try to like fully commit to Doggo in the back, like you decent dive, and you just know you're going into death. There's no way you're getting back. Like Weiwei 404, he's got the Sterix Gauge completed. Even when you look at the Ravenous Hydra completed from Breed, he's massive as well. Like you would just be suiciding to get on towards Doggo, and that's really not going to help you out at all. The best bet for LNG is like try and find some picks on the side lanes. As the Dragon goes across though, there hasn't really been any sort of impact. So for LNG, you kind of missed your window to actually try and cross map at all here.
Yeah, feels a bit like a catch-22 here for the side of LNG. Well, I wasn't going to go that far. But it's definitely like a, you know, damned if you do, damned if you don't, right? You can dive Doggo and try and win the fight that way. But if you do, well, the front line from BLG might just clean up anyway because they're so fed. Or you can try and deal with the front line, in which case, Doggo is free firing the entire time, and then you lose the fight. So it doesn't feel like a
I don't know if you kill the front line either, to be honest. Like, the front line is kind of hard to kill.
Yeah, that Sterix is going to do a whole lot of work for Wei. I mean, Weiwei's just invincible. He's even got a stopwatch. He's already Xin Zhao. He already has a good trigger in a Sterix, plus his ultimate. Like, yeah, he's not going to be simple to deal with. And guess what? Baron now onto the map. BLG with complete vision control. They know that all they have to do is force LNG to face check them. Force LNG to check this Baron. And if not, they can just take the purple win for free.
If they can get the TP out of Ala as well, that's such a big thing for them. They have a ton of ways to escape as well with Fofo's Realm Warp, so they're perfectly happy to kind of like play into the Baron pit with the idea that they can escape. And if ever Ala decides to TP in, well, Breed's kind of got the side lane control there, so they can just put pressure on towards the tier 2 and more pressure on towards the inhibitor. So again, LNG, they need to start finding like smart ways to get those moments. Like right now, right? Like this is where BLG have stepped back. I think Doomby needs to start trying to like play around Ala, like shut down Breed in a side lane, and then maybe they can look for some sort of like double TP if BLG are on the Baron or something along those lines.
See if it can happen. The problem is as well in the side lane, I think we're getting to the point of the matchup where Ala really realistically can't fight Breathe anymore, you know. And so I mean, you're seeing that in the CS numbers as well, but it does feel like that makes the way that the map is played out so much more difficult for LNG unless they can find a pick. So Breathe, the pressure is on him now to do what we know him for and play that carry, but do it in a safe manner so he doesn't get caught out. In the meantime, Ala is just rinsed completely and utterly. Doing Beacon of Destiny. I was going to say out to safety, into the mid lane to try and proxy a wave. He's desperate not to let this game end anytime soon. But the whole of BLG can now try and chase him. He's in a precarious spot, and the rest of LNG moving over to try and protect doing B. This is getting real weird, real quick, Dagda. He's now on a ward, though. He's surely going to get caught out here. Weiwei, can he close the gap? He's too busy killing the wolves. I don't think the wolves are more important than doing B. There you go. Maybe that's just a philosophical issue. In with the Evercross, knocked back onto 2. Loom out the target to start off. Doggo still free firing for the time being. There's one for him. This Tarzan caught up in the solo player. Weiwei gets the knock up. A flash out to safety, but Breathe is following. A rocket on in, and Tarzan down. It's going to be Baron on the cards of BLG.
Such a nice fight from BLG. You can see with that armor coming in on towards Fofo, he's impossible to kill. Without Ala there to do the true damage, Light just doesn't have enough in the tank, especially when he's gone the build he has, right? Like Bloodthirster, not exactly the highest damage item. It's there for keeping you safe. So with the Gale Force and the Bloodthirster, they just can't get through the Rise. Like Fofo's like, oh no, I'm caught, but who kills him, right? Like he's tanking everything here, and he's still perfectly fine this whole time, managing to get the kill and then pop out of the backside. And with that, LNG have overcommitted way too many resources in the fight, and BLG chasing down.
And this is the thing, we're into the late game now. We're beyond the 25-minute mark, and this is BLG's thing. This is what they're good for, and Fofo is moving down. Lumao at least stops it on the roam, and actually maybe can turn this one around. Lumao now the target, but Fofo has been denied. Doggo's rocket just goes sailing on by. Crownie's Comet gets a shout out for that one, but Drake is coming up in just a couple of seconds. BLG could always just go for that, but Chris wants another fight. He wants more on this one, as Weiwei charges in. Doggo once again firing on the backline, and BLG continue to just chase LNG to the ends of the earth. They push them into the base, but it's 1-for-1 as Light finally finds an answer.
But they got the wave there. They got the Baron, and Doggo, he's running them right the way back. He's saying, get out of my yard. I want to make sure that I can get everything here.
Yeah, LNG looking like a squeaky toy at this point, the speed at which Doggo was running at them, but they're going to retreat. They're going to go for the Drake for the time being. And BLG with a Hex Drake as well. I'm not sure this is winnable anymore for LNG. This has been beautiful to witness from the side of LNG.
And it was a slow-paced game, right? We talked about BLG. They kind of thrive in these slower pace of games because they get to make plays like this when we get to the later portion of the game. They're really good at grouping up, finding ways to play around their windows, and LNG, they're just running for the hills. They don't have the damage for portfolio that BLG have right now. Like Jinx, massive, Rise, huge, Twisted Fate, not gonna answer for that. And you've got Light, who's just running every time you even take a sniff at him, because he just doesn't have the damage in his own back pocket either, nor the range that BLG have. So from BLG's perspective now with the Soul, the slow on those autos is going to make it even more difficult for LNG to try and run it.
Yeah, it's going to become a real challenge, and the lightning coming out from Doggo, the extra cleave is called the Lumao on a flank. This is the moment for LNG. Can they make the miracle happen? It's a triple knockup from Lumao. It's damage coming out from Light across the entire team as well. It's still surviving. They just don't seem to have the damage. Lumao finally falls, but Light has already gone. It's a double for Doggo. Turn it into 3 for the hat trick. And Doggo chases everyone down. LNG, they make one last-ditch effort, but last is the operative term, because BLG are barreling into the base, and they're going to find themselves their first game of the series.
It has been confident. Doggo's better trained than me, because I would have went for the Penta, but Tarzan gives him one anyway.
He certainly does. It's not going to turn into a Penta, but it's going to turn into a victory, that is for sure. Beautifully done by BLG, and showing that the late game play comes out on top once more.
And unfortunately for LNG, they just could not find their footing in this game. We saw Tarzan and Doomby trying to make these plays towards the top side, but eventually Breeze was just able to turn it back with help coming through from Weiwei. And when all of your eggs have been placed into that top side basket, the slower pace of game gives the time for the Jinx to scale. Rise is able to get to a point where he's super comfortable. And honestly, it felt like kind of every step of the way that the draft was coming through for LNG, BLG had the answer. We saw the Twist of Fate come in. Cool, we got the Rise. Full push in the mid. We can actually be the ones who make the proactive plays. So either Doomby has to give up a ton of CS in the mid lane and a ton of those turret plates as well as we saw, or you end up with Fofo just being able to move first. Doomby took what he thought was kind of the better of the bad bunch, but unfortunately it doesn't work out. And then you're still losing out heavily on the top, or the bottom side of the map and on the top side of the map.
Yeah, a challenge to say the very least for LNG off the back of that draft. But crucially, I want to reiterate that it wasn't necessarily that this draft had no way to win, but they needed to do better in the early game. They needed to find advantages earlier on in this game to have a chance at winning this one. Whereas BLG, I mean, this is not a surprise. The composition that they've drafted is not new. It's not different. This is exactly what we should expect from BLG. They love to play for the late game. They love to have Doggo on a hyper carry. They love to scale up as long as possible and then win the 5v5s. It's exactly what they've done again. And it honestly just looks beautiful.
Yeah, I think the biggest issue for LNG on this is just like, you get outscaled top, you get outscaled just from range on the bot side, right? Doomby, yeah, it's really hard for him to get out of lane against the Rise. And when you're both have scaling on opposite sides for BLG, there's no real pressure for Fofo as long as he's able to keep you in check and and kind of follow the roams to a certain extent. So, at least on LNG, like, yes, they kind of got bodied in this, but I'm saying this as a like hey, there's still a chance for LNG, right? Like, the reason that I'm bringing this up is because, like, coming into game number 2, I still think there's ways for LNG to fight back. I think if you ban Dory and Rise in this game, maybe that's the difference maker here, right? Rather than going towards the I think it was the support ban that we saw coming through. So I think there are still options for LNG coming into game 2, but this was a confident win for BLG, and certainly for BLG, who seem to be kind of a momentum team to a certain extent as well, who kind of thrive off of this. I think it's going to be a nice stepping stone for them coming into game 2.
It's kind of crazy as well to think about when you look at these two teams on paper, certainly on the top side, I would lean the way of LNG on just like pound for pound power on paper. That's a hell of a sentence. But when it comes to getting onto the Rift, that's not how it's felt so far today. That's not the way it's looking like it's going across this series. We'll see if that statement remains true, though, because LNG are not out just yet. They've still got another game in them. Let's see if they can win it after the break.